Okay, here's an interesting find, an area here where somebody's been building debris shelters, probably practicing their skills. It could be the local outdoor school. Here's a shelter that they made using a branch coming off of one of these Italian pines. They kind of grow branches at right angles. And so here's a long branch coming off, and then they piled branches against it, and there's a little bedding area down there. Now this is either fallen apart or wasn't completed, but it gives you the idea of how a debris shelter could be made if you were lost in a wilderness area and waiting to be located by search and rescue. This would definitely be a good thing. You could grab boughs off of local trees and place them on the ground, create a mattress for ground insulation, and then you'd put as many of these ribs against the ridge that you could, and then cover it with any debris you could find. Now here's one they made that is covered. Back up a little bit. Nice little compact debris shelter. Let's walk around it. Here's the opening. And that's not bad. It needs a little more work. But you definitely could be sheltered in here. Right now the wind is blowing towards me in the camera, so I don't know if that's the prevailing wind right here, but smart to have your wall here. You could have a small fire out here that might reflect some heat inside, especially if you put something reflective. This is all you really want. There's just enough room in there to scrunch up your body inside, and that's all you want. You don't want to have to warm a large area. You want a very small shelter, very compact. Learned this from John McCann, Survival Resources. Great instructor. Visit his website if you get the chance. Very knowledgeable, former veteran, former Marine. You don't want a big shelter. You want a small, compact shelter that just traps warm air and keeps you warm. You don't want too much room. Think small. Now here, behind it, I'm going to move over here so you can get a view of this. Here they've built a kind of a wickiup, and this is big. The base on this shelter is probably 8 feet in diameter, and this would be for multiple people. I would not want to build a shelter like this. It's just a waste of energy to build such a large shelter. You're not going to warm it, and this is what I would consider a family unit sized shelter, like native peoples would have built for probably mother, father, and 2 children. And then they would have sheltered up in here, probably would have put down some ground insulation. Here in California they would have used deer hides and capes made from rabbit fur sewn together for blankets, or a mountain lion cape to keep moisture, and then you'd have a small fire to warm it. And so this is, and a lot of times what they used was willow. They'd take flexible willow and drive it into the soil and then bend them over to the top and tie them. Here you can see this person tied it with modern poly rope, and that's a good reason why you should always carry some cordage with you. Cordage is one of the hardest things to reproduce out in the wild. Time consuming if you're trying to make it out of natural materials. So having some with you is a big time and energy saver. They've ringed the bottom of this with debris, so it kind of has a base to it. So it's you're a little sunken down in there, you're probably going to have a little more protection from wind. And that's exactly how native peoples built it. Sorry. And then here's the beginnings of another shelter. This one relying on a coyote bush. They've used the coyote bush as part of the frame and material to shelter, and then stacked debris against it. This is out in the open air. You don't have any widowmakers that could fall on you. This tree looks pretty healthy. I don't see anything that would fall off. So this could be, except for the acorns, or the, excuse me, the pine cones, but it's not going to do anything. But this shelter, this looks like it's just the beginning of making one. Same thing, it's probably about no more than 5 feet inside. And if you finished it nicely and really put a lot of material against it, and then put down a nice thick bough bed, you'd virtually want to fill this with boughs, so that when you climb into it, you would compress those boughs down. You'd lay them in such a way that they're kind of bowed, so that there's a spring to them. When you lay on them, you'll compress them and have some ground insulation. If you could gather like dried grasses and stack that up and then climb under the dried grasses, you'd have more insulation, dead air space. There is dead pine needles around here, and that would work. And again, if you have a space blanket, all the better, because you'll have that dead space, and you climb into the space blanket and you'll be nice and warm, and it's gonna get you by. If you, assuming you have left a hiking plan and you have stuck to that hiking plan and not deviated from it, it's a pretty good bet that a competent professional search and rescue organization is going to find you in about 48 hours. Anything you do to enhance your survival, if you've brought extra water, if you know how to gather water, if you have a few food items. Food doesn't really enter into it too much. Kind of a nice comfort thing, but you really don't need it. Water's critical, and then maintaining your body warmth is highly critical. So either getting out of the sun's rays and not becoming overheated, or if it's cold, maintaining your body core temperature warmth. The things you carry in your pack are going to greatly enhance your survival. You're foolish if you go out hiking, on any hike, and you don't carry a few simple items: a fire tool, a space blanket, a disposable poncho, some cordage, a cutting tool, and hydration, maybe a canteen cup. If just those few things would go so far to helping you make it through if you were lost for a couple days. But skills and knowledge don't weigh anything, like they say. If you know how to make debris shelters, and you know the basic mechanics of survival, you'll be all right. Anyway, just thought I'd share that with you. I thought that was kind of a cool find. These kind of shelters are going to be rough. They're not going to be pretty affairs. You're going to use the materials you find laying around or that you can snap off. A tree like this has got a lot of branches you can snap off to build your debris shelter. Very interesting. Okay. That's all I got for you for right now.